A very good evening, viewers. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the news at 4:30. I'm Kritsween Wala, and well, remember the Prime Minister today will be addressing the nation at around 8 p.m. And now government sources smashing all those rumours surrounding his address. Government sources confirming there will not be a lockdown. Abhishek Kapoor, our executive editor, joining us with more inputs on the same. Abhishek, because the need of the hour demands that panic must not be spread. And now government sources coming out with this piece of information. What more inputs are you picking up on the same?
Well, essentially, in anticipation of the Prime Minister's address, even a speculation was picking up, Kritsween, that there is a possibility of a major lockdown. That is the reason why it is coming right from the top by the Prime Minister himself, or even there was a talk of some kind of national emergency measures being put in place. So sources in the government tell us that that is absolutely not the case, and that there is no need whatsoever for people to panic and to start hoarding in terms of essentials at their homes, and generally not to spread panic, because the Prime Minister is essentially addressing the nation to keep the people on the same page in terms of dealing with this pandemic as a society, as a nation together. And he is going to apprise the people of what the government has done, how the government has made sure that they are on top of the spread of this contagion in terms of containing it, in which they have succeeded considerably. To narrate to the people why this success has happened, and to learn lessons from that success so that they can be replicated at all levels to make sure that it does not spread further, or the speed is slow, or it's tapered off, so that as and when India gets into the stage 3 of the contagion, which has played havoc in countries like Italy and Germany now, and the United States also, at least in our case, it's contained. So essentially, he would be communicating the lessons that have been learned from India's strategy, from the strategy of other nations and societies, and to make the best of it, essentially to make sure that everyone in the country, the people and the government, are on the same page. It's just not about the central government, it's about the state governments, it's about the district administrations, it's about the civil society organizations, it's about the NGOs, it's about the people, and it's about the individuals as well. So the Prime Minister is going to make that address to take everyone on board, to make everyone come on the same page when it comes to dealing with this pandemic, and not to add to any sense of panic, or to add to any speculation, that there could be some emergency measures. So that bit of information is coming from our sources in the government, that people should relax and listen to the Prime Minister about how to deal with the pandemic and the spreading of the pandemic from stage 2 to stage 3. As a society and as a collective entity, as a nation, and not in silos, so that the damage is limited to the minimum. And that's what the Prime Minister is going to speak about. Kritsween.
Yes, certainly. Abhishek, the government has drawn up a plan to sensitize people and spread awareness, and that is exactly what will be the message which will be sent out by the Prime Minister himself. And now government sources sending out this information that there is no need to panic, and that all of those speculations around a possible lockdown, must be smashed completely in the minds and the hearts of the people as well, because that is only going to lead to a lot of chaos. We've seen how when lockdowns have been imposed in various other countries, we've seen people suddenly take to streets, barge into all of those grocery stores, and how the situation has certainly gone out of control. And that's exactly what we can't afford to do right now. Though we are still away from, the onset of the stage 3, but still something one must look at very carefully at this point in time.
Oh, you are absolutely right. We have seen all sorts of pictures, Kritsween, coming from around the world, as to how the society is responding, even as the governments have been a little helpless. We have seen in the case of Iran, we have seen in the case of Italy, we have seen in the case of Germany now, we've seen in the case of France, and panic reactions happening. France has ordered a lockdown, which has added to the panic. Contrast that with the fact that in India, even the stage 2 has been slow. So, for example, in stage 2 itself, at the level when, for example, in Italy, there were about 150 corona cases. Next day, they became almost 280. In the case of United States, from 140, it came to about 250. In the case of South Korea, from 110, it went to 209. Compare that with India, where in the last 48 hours, on 17th of March, the numbers were at around 157. And today, as they stand, at around 170. So that itself reflects on the success of the measures that have been put in place by the government in terms of educating the masses, in terms of sensitizing the administration at the local level to respond and follow all those who have been found to be infected, and to do contact tracing to minimize the spread of the virus. So as of now, everything seems to be in control. But then it's a pandemic. It's a natural, or it's been classified as a natural calamity, and it can have its own course. So to make sure that we are on top of it, the Prime Minister wants to make that address, and adding to panic can be the least of the objectives, and that is why this clarification has come, that people should not start hoarding, people should not panic, and be calm and listen to the Prime Minister in terms of the overall national strategy of dealing corona that the government has devised. Kritswin.
Yes, because, the announcement, the mere announcement that the Prime Minister will be addressing the nation led to a lot of speculation in itself, wherein you could see so much movement just today, Abhishek, wherein people were expecting the Prime Minister to, in fact, announce a possible lockdown. Is why this very piece of information is so important, because remember how the Health Minister also on the floor of the House has time and again, given credit to all of those, especially from the healthcare, and how they've been working round the clock. So that is possibly what the focus is going to be, because apart from all the measures and the precautions that are in place that must be looked at carefully, and people must be aware of what exactly is happening around them, it is also important to stay in a positive frame of mind and to be able to put out to, the masses as to all that is really being done to combat the pandemic.
Well, yes, anticipation was leading to speculation, and the speculation was leading to actual panic on the ground, because we were getting reports since morning, Kritswin, about people going out in the markets and hoarding groceries, hoarding vegetables. There was a report, we reported about it yesterday, for example, that in the biggest market in Delhi, Azad Mandi, the footfall had increased by almost 10 times or more. Essentially, people reacting to this development and expecting the words. On a lighter note, perhaps people had memories of demonetization, and they thought that if something is so serious that the Prime Minister is addressing the nation, then obviously they have to expect queues and whatnot. So that was leading to the kind of panic that we saw, reports of which perhaps reached the government also, and that is why this clarification that nothing like that is happening, no lockdown, no emergency, just an engagement with the nation by the Prime Minister, exchanging thoughts on how to take care of the crisis together.
Yes. So the Prime Minister once again making sure that he is reaching out to the people of the country in this time of crisis. Many thanks, Abhishek. We'll keep coming back to you as and when we pick up more information on the same. Remember, the Prime Minister today will be addressing the entire country at around 8 p.m.